All right. Let's see. Oh, it's working. Amazing. Okay, so no, I'm not gonna end up saving any of these. Whatever doodles is kind of just mostly practice for practice sake and me wanting to draw. And I know that there's one person who wants to, so I'm going to record the stream for my girlfriend. I'm not drawing anything in particular. I'm just trying to draw shit as best I can without using much any reference. That's how I usually always draw, but I mean, I'm using somewhat reference now because what are we doing? 1, 2, 3, 4. What the hell is this? These fucking, I'm not gonna say his name right, so I'm not even gonna try. An artist is fucking something. The new manga artist, I mean. I am not. But he's damn inspiring, that's for sure. Try drawing a bit more with effort, which is a pretty good change of pace, considering I've been not for a long time. We can make these look like individual fucking fingers now. I'm gonna have to clean the shit out of this. This is lacking some serious this way area. This looks silly with the index finger being the tallest still. I like this brush right now a lot. A little hard pencil. These fingers look phony as hell. Here's some counterfeit ass fingers. It's bad when a 2-year-old draw this. Good lord. It's like, hello. This is a hand? Good God. Ugh. This is just some straight up embarrassing stuff. I used to be so much better at drawing hands, and look at this. This looks like it's this. I mean, it's supposed to be hand. I shouldn't be thinking out loud this much. It might become a habit. Don't want to do that. The thing I really enjoy about that artist is that he's just, I can't even, like, everything is just so, it feels, what's the fucking word, just really three-dimensional, which is a really dumb way to describe it, but I guess that's the best way I can. Highly believable, even though what I'm looking at on these fucking panels are just complete, like, ridiculous. I mean, it's not ridiculous because it's like completely possible for a person to look this fucking ripped, but Jesus Christ, this guy draws it like a beast. It's like, oh man. Can I even compete? That's how it feels. It feels like no, I can't even compete. What is this? He's just with this singular line right here. I just made him look like a big hunched over turtle man. I need to not do that. Okay, Eternal Man, let's free you from this weird shell that I've accidentally put you in. Oi. This eraser's a bit too small. Oh, still in erase mode. Don't want to be in erase mode when you're trying to draw. This seems incorrect, but we're just going to see how this goes. I'm not drawing the dude as ripped as the reference I'm using. I'm not using a real person reference either. I'm going real fanboy style and just looking at a pen. Because I'm just so amazed by the way this guy is able to do it. And his stomach area seems really disjointed, but it's okay. It kind of helps me add on to the not so flat feeling that I get a lot of the time sometimes these days. A lot of the time sometimes. It's an interesting time. I don't even know what pose this is. He's going for a straight up like some pop star pose. It's not looking good, but maybe we can save it. Maybe. Maybe not. How many fingers am I giving this man? I'm gonna stop this. Fat pinky. Perfect. Who doesn't have a fat pinky, huh? Oh boy. If I could either draw as good as, well, fuck, I have to add this guy to my list of artists I wish I was good as. God forbid Jim Lee ever sees me draw. I'll be like, that doesn't go there. Who's this guy drawing this shit right here? Doesn't go there. Belongs somewhere else. Belongs to the side. A little more to the side. Gotta really try to get this. It's here. Stick to this movement. This line of motion? I don't think that's what it is. Gesture? I don't fuck it. So these are somewhat abs. No. It is not from the reference pictures, although it could be, considering how those guys' abs are going too. Let's just fill these in like that. Let's be a little cheap. 1, 2, 3, 4. Can make these last two down here pretty low abs, but whatever. Now I know that there are muscles here that do this. They get worked out, they're kind of thin and shit, but they still do that. But in the fucking reference picture I'm using, it's really throwing me out because this guy's all fucking crazy. It's almost like he just has a pelvis bone. And that's fucking it, sons. That's it. I mean, I guess that is. I don't look at enough bodybuilder pictures. I don't even know. For all I know, this guy's probably in the right, and I'm just the fucking guy like, I don't get it. I don't want to be that guy, but here we go. Yes, I get the legs. Legs just kind of go out. I wish I was better at drawing legs, and I probably should be practicing that. Oh gosh, this is nowhere close to the hell I'm looking at. I'm not copying it, but it's also not that, like, it doesn't really pop off the page as well. Damn, I gotta figure it out. Maybe we can save it. Maybe we can save it. Man. Learn me some anatomy is what I need. I'm sure this kind of helps. Just a little bit. Wronger anatomy is what I need. Also a better sense of better sense of edges. That's not the right way to describe it. Like, I'm I'm trying to establish that there's an edge here. Simply, I mean, I could do it with just a straight up black, thick line, but I feel like that's just hiding too much. Right, I see it. It's just, it feels like this of somebody from a far viewpoint. And you try to take this, because it doesn't seem too off. It's not close. Like, this guy is fine if we were to like shrink him. And, he's like a crossing guard maybe. Oh, okay. He's just like beep beep. Everybody stop, please. Worst octagon. I can't even. I don't even think this is an octagon, so I want to. It is. Estape. You know what I'm talking about? It actually doesn't look too bad from that. Is that in that size? Maybe we can fix this. This like reference image is making me all insecure about my stop man, my road crossing guy. Okay, let's blow him up. The pixels are gonna be shit because we shrank them down, or maybe we won't, because this is Krita and I don't know shit. I'm just talking more shit like I know, right? You can't tell. Whatever. Let's just fix this guy. Maybe we can. Maybe we can't. At this point, I really don't know. It reads kind of okay from a distance. Let's just give it more depth. How? I'm not sure. Let's just see if we can. Trying not to touch the microphone self. So I don't just sit here quietly like a strange person reading a book. It's not strange to read books, but I'm not reading a book. It's not strange to read books, but what's something I'm allowed to play? I don't expect this to be like a big video ever, but I should stay within the YouTube guidelines, I guess, if I want to share this with whoever I'm trying to share as well. What can I play? What is that, rainbow candy? It's just lo-fi beats for days on YouTube. That's not what I'm trying to listen to. Bob Ross, you are a madman. Do I want to watch this video? I don't think I can. Well, I don't know. It's not for fucking money anyway. Fuck. What is that? That's weird looking. Firefighter saved man from falling out a window. How the fuck did he even get himself outside the window to begin with? He shouldn't be there. Man. It's as bad as like having cable. don't know, like, there's nothing to... My YouTube just sucks. I've gone ahead and fucked up all YouTube suggestion ideas by clicking just watching random shit. Ooh, this is a dark one, but I'll put it on. Some Jim Can't Swim criminal psychology.
What makes the case of Jennifer Pan unique among others in the true crime genre is the overabundance of raw footage freely available in the public domain. There is over 11 hours of material that not only recounts her entire life in meticulous detail, but gives us considerable insight into her psychopathological state. Jennifer herself will narrate her own story in this video, which is the reason the following lead-up segment will be condensed, as a brief outline is all that is needed before delving into the extraordinary mind of this individual. Jennifer was born in Markham, Ontario, where she was raised with her older brother in a middle-class household. Her parents, Beek and Han, were originally from Vietnam, and their method of parenting was strict, very strict. What some might even class as authoritarian. Success and achievement from their children were seen as outright obligations, whether it be in academics or extracurricular activity. And some might argue these expectations took precedence over the well-being of the children themselves. Jennifer initially took the imposed pressure in her stride and put everything she had into figure skating. She had exceptional talent, and at one point was expected to compete in the Winter Olympics. But she suffered a serious knee injury at the age of 14 and was told she could no longer compete. Her dreams were cut short, but of more concern was that her parents' expectations now had to be met through the more traditional route of education. And the issue was that Jennifer wasn't anywhere near as academically gifted as she was athletic. She was averaging a C- when her parents wanted straight A's. So rather than communicate with them, she decided to meet their expectations under false pretenses and began faking her test results. This led to her faking her end-of-year report cards, which eventually led to her faking a high school diploma, and then a university acceptance letter to study pharmacology. In the abstract world of her parents, Jennifer was on her way to a noble and well-paid career in medical health care, when in reality, she was a high school dropout living with her drug dealer boyfriend, whom she had been dating in secret for almost 8 years. She was eventually found out in 2010 when her parents discovered she had been living a double life, and was then given an ultimatum. At 24 years old, she had to choose between one of two options. Option one was that she had to live at home under a strict regime, cease all contact with her boyfriend, and only leave the house to go back to school and pursue an education. Option two was that she could do whatever she wanted, but she would then be disowned from her family. She could never return home, and all financial support would cease immediately. Jennifer evidently decided neither option would suffice, so she created option number 3. She had her boyfriend arrange a mock home invasion, where 3 of his acquaintances would enter the Pan household and stage a robbery gone wrong. The two instructions were to first ransack the home and then murder the parents. The planned date was Monday the 8th of November, with the scheduled time being roughly 11 p.m. Jennifer would unlock the front door, and 3 figures were caught on a neighbor's surveillance camera entering the home at 11:05. They were then seen running out just under 18 minutes later. It was at that exact time 911 received a call from the same household.
Rid of this arm. His hand still looks funny. Let's try and bring this arm now more forward and not behind. That's more passing. Keep this wrist kind of. I'm starting to hate it now. I guess it's still just go right there. This is the edge right here. Oh gosh, this is coming out terribly, Jim.
Beek Pan was shot twice, once in the neck and once in the head. She was killed immediately. The father, Han, was also shot twice, once in the shoulder and once in the face. He astonishingly survived and was put into an induced coma once he arrived at the hospital. Jennifer was taken to the same hospital as a precaution, but was soon cleared of injury. She sat by her father's bedside for roughly 3 hours before she was taken to the Markham police station to give a statement as a witness.
I want to go through a form with you. It may seem kind of, why you're doing this, but this is it's like you're You're swearing
That
to
didn't
tell
help,
the
but
truth
it's
about
okay.
what you're going to
That
talk
made
to
me
me
feel
about.
better.
And it's also going to explain to you the
Alright, take
penalties
this
for
brush.
not telling the truth. I don't expect you
That
not to
didn't
help
really
me,
help too much, but
for a homicide
see.
investigation,
How would you scale
anyone
it?
who's very close to the investigation,
I
we do
need a
this with.
what would
Okay?
you scale
So this
bracelet?
isn't suspecting that you're not going to tell the
Sorry.
truth. This is more of a feature that
Scale
you
would put some pretty
understand
heavy
the
lines here.
importance of telling the complete truth.
Jennifer is not a suspect at this moment. She is only giving a voluntary statement under oath. She has not read her right to silence, but instead informed of her rights as a witness. She is basically told that fabricating evidence with the intent to mislead is an offense. After reading the notification off paper, the detective gives Jennifer a more human explanation of the instruction.
As a
What I've just
reference
explained
for
to you
how I want
is
to shade this, because I
you're
haven't
here
the slightest. I
voluntarily
don't ever
to
like
help
shadow
us,
just based on
that you don't have to talk to us if you don't want to, but the importance of talking to us, and if you're
having
talking to us, the
including,
importance of telling the truth.
if you understand
And
what
if
that
you don't
means or
tell
not.
the truth, there's criminal
Talking to
consequences for
myself.
not telling the truth. That's all that stuff had to deal
Talking
with.
to my girlfriend, she would
Okay?
The investigator then leaves to get the Commissioner of Oaths, which is for the purpose of swearing in the witness, but he first brings in a box
You know,
of
I should
Kleenex.
really do more of this dramatic shading more. It's kind of helping.
This is universally recognized as getting
let's just
startled,
add-
yet the official term in
let's get experiments
neurophysiology is the startle reflex via auditory stimulus. Hyperarousal from a traumatic event can often exaggerate this response in a manner similar
Is
to
this
how
how I've been
Jennifer
doing
reacted to the
I
sound
just
of
need
the
to do
door.
more of this crazy shading shit. I'm really selling myself on this, but it's probably not going to come out as good as I feel like it's working out.
I'm here
For
so
some
you
reason.
can give a
It-
truthful statement either
It's
by
not, definitely not as buff
affirmation or swearing
as the
on the
reference
Bible.
picture.
Which do you
But
prefer?
I'm just dragging myself down.
Just put your hand on the Bible.
I told myself it wasn't that buff. I told myself.
Do you, Jennifer Pan, swear that the evidence you shall give
Looks
on
like a
this
funny rock.
investigation shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So
The
help
arm is
you
kind of
God?
stretched out, so I mean, it should stretch.
Once
with the
Jennifer
arm.
is sworn
I don't
in,
know why I
the
keep
lead
trying to round it out.
investigator returns to collect the statement.
Now I want you to sort of take yourself back to earlier on today, yesterday, meaning the 8th of November, and tell me about your
Mix
day.
with this shoulder
Okay,
over
start at
here,
any point in
which
time,
let's try and make kind of
wherever
big.
you feel comfortable, and then we're gonna move
See.
forward. Okay.
What would you skate do bracelet? He's kicking about now.
Yesterday, probably around 9 o'clock in the morning, 9:30.
Just add that just so he can make
My
it seem
mother,
like boom, boom.
She woke
There's
me
some
up
extra
and
muscle
she
back
told
here,
me that she was
skis.
going to visit my grandfather.
Throughout
Oh,
the day, Jennifer
when I
explains
straight
that she
this hurt, my
practiced
whole desk
piano,
wiggles.
studied piano history,
flimsy,
talked
flimsy
on the
desk.
phone with her friends, and had dinner with her parents. Her mother left for line dancing at 8 p.m. and returned home at about 9:30, at which time Jennifer was alone in her room watching TV, ready to go to sleep.
And then suddenly I just heard my mom calling for my dad to come down. And that's when I lowered the
You need
volume on my
to
TV.
practice to draw like
And I could
you
hear
skate more
the
and
voices weren't any voices I
draw
was
like
very familiar with. And
that's it for that right
so I
now.
was scared and I couldn't move. I just sat in my
I'll get
room
to
for
Gem Lee level at some point,
while.
but
And
right
then
now I'm just trying to
I thought I
tackle
heard
some
them
of
all
this.
leave the top floor, and I peered out
So
of my
let's
bedroom
try
door.
and fit in some.
And
some
a guy
letters
was
here.
there, and he came at me and had string in his hands and tied
Some of
my
this
arms back and said, "I have a gun behind your
front
back.
rib.
Do what I say. If you do what I say, then no one will get hurt. Where is the money? Show me where your money is." My mom kept trying to get up, and they kept
I
telling
want
her
to keep kind of
sit
these
down. And so
shapes
I didn't
too,
want
because
her
they
to get hurt.
lend.
I told her, "Mom, sit down."
They lend. They just give us a
They were
helping
trying to
hand
find
when
her
they're in the
wallet,
right spot.
but her English isn't good, so she kept saying first. They kept pushing
Although
her down
sometimes they
to
won't
the
make
chair.
sense in my brain.
Okay.
They will kind of
Take
still
your
lend
time.
to the picture somehow.
Take your time.
Not somehow.
All this is very important, so take
If
your
there's a
time.
how. It's not a
Jennifer's
mysterious how either.
nonverbal communication up to this point has made sense, and the reflection of her mother's last moments seems to push
need to
her
stop
over the
being so
edge.
whimsical
It
about
could
that.
be
It's
assumed the
starting to not
detective
make
still
sense when I do
considers
that.
Jennifer a victim at this moment, but in
Okay.
the next moment, he will
Cows
start
don't
becoming
need to be
suspicious.
bursting out of his fucking body, so I'm not going to put too many hard lines
I
there.
kept all the lights off on the main floor.
That would be kind of crazy, huh?
The only time there was light was when they opened the fridge door to see if they could find where my
Hey,
mom's purse
bum.
was.
Take yourself back to a
Do one
moment
of
in your
those.
life when you have been overwhelmingly upset about
Huh.
something. and
Maybe
at
I
the
should
same
dark down
time
some of
were
the other
trying to
fucking
explain to someone why you were upset. You wouldn't quietly and reservedly
sketches I
convey
just
the
did earlier
events.
was
You would likely
just
blurt
do
them out in a forceful and disordered
really,
manner.
really early
Your
on.
sole focus would be on processing your thoughts and conveying them into speech. The emotional turbulence of severe hysteria and grief makes it very difficult to convey thought into actual dialogue, and the simple wording of a sentence becomes very challenging. Jennifer seems to be more concentrated on how she's being perceived, yet finds her words easily and executes her sentences perfectly.
One of the gentlemen asked my father if he had money in his wallet and where his wallet was.
Throw it up
So they
this
took me,
direction.
because I was next to the stairwell, they took me
Kinda
up the
carve it out
stairs
like
to
that.
show them where my father's wallet was, but I
Kinda
didn't know.
Actually,
They
it makes
turned the
sense because
room
there would
upside
be.
down. I
See,
didn't
I don't
know
want to
where
like do that.
pants were at that time.
What is this?
The intruders retrieve $1,100 from the master bedroom and then tie Jennifer to the upstairs banister.
Next thing I know, I think I heard my parents going down the stairs, and my mom was asking them for me to come with them. They wouldn't let me come with them. The last thing I heard them say was, "You lied to us. You lied to us." Then I heard 2 pops. My mom screamed. I yelled out for her. And a couple more pops.
That's pretty fucking funny.
Take your time. Take your time.
And I think I heard my
I
mom
wonder if I can draw
say
Tatsumaki
a
now.
moan or something, and then they did one more before they left, and then one of the guys said, "We have to go now, it's been too long." And then they ran out the door, and I think once they were out the door, I heard my dad go up the stairs, and at that point,
Jennifer has clearly gotten her story straight beforehand, yet in the next moment appears to
So,
realize how unusual
I
it
guess
is
this-
that she was able
this
to make a
biceps is
phone
really-
call when her hands
it's
were
really
tied
starting
behind her
out there.
back to a banister. She hesitates, stutters,
it's-
and
it's-
even looks
where's
to the
it even
detective
attached to
for
this, dude?
approval twice before she quickly moves on.
I had my phone in my
It's
pocket,
okay. We'll just roll with it for now.
on me, behind
If,
me,
if it comes out too fucking.
that I had hidden there that
too
they
weird,
didn't
we'll
know
fix it
about.
out. Yeah.
So,
I
I had my
think we're
phone
trying to do something
in my
more fancy
in
with this
my-
other arm. I think we're
on
trying to
me,
do something
behind me,
foreshortening.
that I had hidden there that they didn't know about.
So let's
So
try
when
to
I
approach this one
when I
different. Let's,
when I thought that they had heard them all leave, and my
let's
dad ran
redraw
up the
this one.
stairs, I whipped up
this is
the
our
phone
chance
and I
before
called
we do
someone.
anything crazy. Not going forward
But
past
I
this point.
still
We're
hadn't
stopping
heard
here and
anything
fix
from
it.
my mom, and all I could hear was my dad running on the street, moaning and making
Let's keep
sounds.
that little shoulder nub there.
The detective then breaks the event down into components and has Jennifer go through each moment in more detail. The first of which is the appearance of the intruders. Jennifer now describes the one who appeared to be in charge.
The only thing I can remember was him was he had dreadlocks.
He had dreadlocks. So are you, can you describe his race to me?
He was black.
Was his head covered? Was his face covered?
Okay,
Do you
so let's
remember anything
have
about
the
that?
shoulder,
His dreadlocks
shoulder
were
nub,
like
his
kind of like
biceps.
flopping
It's
all over
gonna
the place. I couldn't really
To be like kind of
see
like
his face,
right
and
there.
they kept the
It's
lights dark
pretty close
as much as
to his chest at this point. Needs
as
to
much as possible.
be there
Did he have a
here
gun?
Somewhere.
Did you
Somewhere.
see the
Gotta be
gun?
somewhere.
I only saw the top part of the gun.
Also
What did it
shoulder
look
here.
like?
He's going for one of those really
Kind of
like
was
trying
black.
Yeah. Do you know where the other
crossing guard stop
guys
somebody
involved
from
in this are?
behind him.
I know one stayed with my
So let's
parents
try and get that
downstairs.
behind him motion.
Okay.
Bicep
The
can
other
go
one,
this far.
I'm not at that point in time. I was more focused on him.
Shoulder
Like
will go
he
this
was
far.
seeing me and he was coming
Just
after me.
like gotta be an
So you're
elbow
saying
joint.
there's 3 for sure.
Elbow joint here.
That's all you saw. A
It's
total
also
of 3 at
got
one time. You saw 3 people together.
Breaky
Yes, when I
eyes.
went
If
downstairs,
I
I
can
saw
remember
3
back to high school.
She details the appearances of the other 2 assailants, whom she asserts were also
I
black
can
males.
try and
The
remember which
detective
side
then
of
brings
the
her
arm
back to the
looking at
one
here.
in charge.
Now the first
Let's
guy
get
who
this,
spoke to you, what kind of did he have any accent? Was
None
it
that I
clear?
could
This
make out.
muscle that goes
Was it
around
clear
the-
English?
What is it? What is this stuff?
Unbroken,
And
no accent.
Which one this was?
from the terms he used, I didn't get to pick up an
More.
accent. No. He used short phrases.
Fatter side.
He
one.
sounded
Opposite
Canadian.
side of the
I would
one
say
that kind of creeps up
yes,
on
he
the
was born here.
bicep over here.
She asserts that the second intruder didn't speak, while the third had a Caribbean accent. She then goes on to say she was taken downstairs for
This
a brief
chick is so
moment and
fucked.
saw her parents under guard.
She should
in the
not have
living
killed her
room.
parents.
Her father was
or planned
asked
it.
where his wallet was, and he told them it was in the master
She should
bedroom.
not have done
Jennifer
a lot
was
of
then
things,
taken
actually.
back upstairs alone with two of the assailants
Okay, this
to help
alarm
them
is looking
find
really
it.
crazy.
They don't find the wallet, but
Foreshadowing
instead
isn't
retrieve a
for-
pile of cash from
foreshadowing
inside
for-
the nightstand.
Foreshadowing is
Jennifer
not
was
working
then
out for me
tied
right
to
now.
the upstairs banister
really should
and
have
left alone as the
tackled this with
intruders
a
went
better
back
plan.
down.
And
So
then
let's
I tried
tackle
to
with a better
hear
plan.
them
I
tell
know I
me
could
the
probably
story
fix it, but I'd rather give myself
Okay.
a better start.
And I'm asking them, why, where are you going? And my mom's yelling at
And
me.
unless this is really where I
want
get
my
stumped,
daughter.
and
Why can't
I'm
my
like, you know,
daughter
I'm
come
done
too?
trying.
I want my
But let's
daughter.
see. So
Jennifer
far we're
then
gonna
hears
go.
one of the
Oh,
intruders
that's
yell,
not even a straight
"You
line.
lied to
That's-
us."
That's just
Who do you
embarrassing.
hear yelling, "You lied to us," or to that
Number
extent?
3.
I
Number
don't know
three.
what that was.
So
I think
I'm
my fingers
assuming
just got
it's
lazy.
my father. Because he was the one asking for the wallet.
Now you hear this commotion
Just ignore
downstairs.
it.
You said you heard 2
Yes,
pops,
it is okay.
and you heard
I'm
who
not
scream?
recording a black screen again.
Your mom.
So let's see.
And what was
The
she
wrist
screaming?
should go here.
Do you remember?
Make it out. It
Yeah.
was kind of like a cry.
Get the wrist like
cry
that.
yell, so
Boom.
it was just
Okay.
Not
they had
entirely
made
sure which
the first
direction it's gonna
round
go like
or
that.
Pop, pop.
Probably like that actually.
And
Yeah. So it's
they had,
foreshortening.
they had said, okay, that's enough.
The
Let's go.
Who
form
said that?
there.
Whose voice is that?
Number 1.
Let's
Okay.
connect the
And then I
bicep
heard
somehow.
one more after that.
Bicep's gonna have to connect
And they're
like
like,
this.
"That's
It's gonna
enough.
be very
Let's go."
strange.
Okay.
Very
Again, that's
strange,
number
but
1.
It's okay, I guess.
Yes.
So what do you hear next after you hear the scrambling? They're gone. Because you're hearing no more. I gather that's how you assume they're gone, is because you don't
Oh,
hear
this is
the
gonna be
name of
really,
Dad.
really, really
I
weird.
reached for my phone at
Okay.
that point.
And you call 911.
And it's gonna
Okay.
look really wrong, but it's okay.
When your
It's-
father exits, you hear the door open because you hear your dog, and then you
And then I
see.
can hear like the outside noises,
Okay.
like the wind coming in, and I just hear my dad. I think he.
You think that he's sustained some kind of injury because he's not. You can't understand what he's saying. Okay. What about? Do you? Can you hear your mom? Okay. Where does your dad go? Do you know where? You never see your dad again until when we're at the hospital. I think that's what you said, right?
I saw him when he was on the gurney.
Is there any reason to suspect or anything that's happened in the recent weeks leading up that would have you guys be a target of some type of incident like this?
We live a straightforward, kind of almost routine life.
Whenever Jennifer smiles, it takes her a couple seconds to realize she's not exhibiting the correct behavior, and she then snaps back into her solemn stare. The two looks are so diametrically opposed to each other that it becomes glaringly obvious she's forcing one of the emotions.
What, in your opinion, would cause people to target your house to think there was a large quantity of money?
I'm not sure.
Now, you say your mom drives a Lexus.
It could be because of the aesthetics, yes.
What about your dad?
He drives a Mercedes and he loves that baby.
Is that right?
The questions end here, and the detective leaves the room for half an hour to double-check if he needs any more information. After 15 minutes of Jennifer waiting alone, we're gifted with another performance of the startle reflex, only this time it's slightly less convincing. If investigators were certain of Jennifer's innocence, this would have been the first and last time she would have been questioned in such a manner. Police are extremely careful in how they involve victims in investigations as to not cause further unnecessary trauma. But on this particular occasion, it would come as no surprise that Jennifer's psychological well-being was of less concern. She was officially still a victim and witness, but unofficially a leading suspect. She was called back in to give another statement just 2 days later at 9 a.m. She was told the reason was to collect more details, but you'll notice that the line of questioning and the answers they attain have little to no use for anything outside of Jennifer's culpability. The actual reason for this second statement is to collect further information to use against her at a later stage. In this interview alone, they already start the process of cross-examination and start to catch her out in previous lies. Jennifer is still a witness at this moment, and the exchange is void of any direct confrontation. Yet she is still put under a modest amount of pressure, and the holes in her story start to become ever more apparent.
This is probably gonna go nowhere, but
Take
it's
that
okay.
first
Let's
interview
just
that we
let's just
had,
do this.
which was, hours after what had transpired.
Boom, boom,
Put it
boom,
aside.
boom,
It's almost like we've never spoken before. Okay? So we're starting fresh. We're starting from new. That way you're not going to say, I think I already told him that. Don't worry about what you've already told me.
Do you, Jennifer Penn,
Have to stretch
swear or declare that the
since it's
evidence
gonna
that
go
you
that
give in
far.
this investigation shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
We're going to see if we've learned or if you've remembered anything else. And there's some questions with respect to that statement that I'm going to ask
Slow
you about.
stretch,
Okay,
boom,
so, but I'm going to let you start again, and let's move forward from
Sorry,
any
I
time in
don't
that
like
day
you
where you
saying
want to
it.
start. If it's the
I
time you
was
woke
saying
up or
I
if
don't
it's
like
the
you
time
making
that
sounds.
your first interaction, it's your choice.
Okay, I'm very nervous and I
Why are
don't
you?
remember
Why
the
are you? Why are you nervous? Tell
Round
me about why
shadows
you're
make me feel
nervous.
so comfy.
because I don't
Shadows
want
that
to say the
kind of
wrong
bend
thing.
around or something.
Oh,
like
you-
give it
so-
like a suggested
That
curve.
day was
Feels so good.
a lot,
You're right.
and
Okay, so
I've been
this.
scattered, and so bits and pieces are here, and some pieces aren't here, and
So
I'm just
tricep.
So
Gonna go around here.
I want you to sit back in your chair. Okay, just sit back in your chair. Take a deep breath.
Okay.
Okay. Close your eyes. Just follow my line. Just sit back in the chair for a second. Sit back. Relax. It's the best you can.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm totally lost
Close
in
your
the sauce
eyes.
right now.
And just breathe for a minute. Okay?
This is not a bicep. In fact, I'm not sure what this is exactly. I had a plan.
The most curious
I just
detail
kind of
you've probably come to notice is this.
decided that the
It's known
biceps
as a
is there.
self-pacifying gesture. A
Premature
person
plan,
who
buddy.
does this is most often uncomfortable and sometimes fearful of what lies ahead.
I don't
It's a
even know if I
coping
want that to be
mechanism
the
to
form
dissipate
still, but-
stress and afford self-assurance.
Press
what I can remember is when I woke up, had some breakfast.
Connects
She
there.
practices on the piano, studies piano history, plays games on her phone, and speaks with her friends on Facebook during the morning hours. Her mom leaves to visit her grandfather at around noon and returns at 3 p.m.
This is
to
looking
prepare
really
dinner.
weird.
Her father comes home at around 4:30
But
from
we're gonna
work,
see
and
if we
dinner
can
is served
save it.
1 hour later.
Perhaps
Her
if we
mother
just
leaves
put
for
the right
line
information
dancing
in
at
the
7,
right
then
spots.
returns at 9:30. Jennifer at this point is in bed talking with her friend on the phone, and her father is
fix
in the
it.
computer room. She then hears her mother loudly call out to her father.
What is she saying?
She's calling him by his name and to
This
come
is
down.
once again really
Okay,
weird.
so give us verbatim what do you hear her saying?
In Vietnamese, she's like, Hanoi, xuống đây.
She's clearly aware that she has to appear mournful over the subject matter, and sensibly draws out this emotion at the correct moments. Yet what's fascinating
like
is
that-
how she's
it's a
unable
nice
to
angle
maintain
because I don't
this
have to worry so
emotion when
much about
inquired over the
fingers,
same
right?
elements. In this very moment,
I don't know
she
what I'm
appears
saying, right?
completely
Like I'm
grief-stricken,
fucking talking to
but when the
somebody.
investigator inquires further, this supposed grief
kinda works.
rapidly dissipates.
Kinda works with the
it's
hand there
extremely
now.
difficult to
It kinda seems
convincingly
like it
act
goes
out
in
an
one
emotion
direction,
while
but
evaluating a
it's all
question. It
flowing,
requires
but
two
now he's
completely
also
different
so
parts of the
exaggerated that
brain,
it
which
looks
is why
really
most
weird.
people
Whatever.
can only do one of these
We
things
are
at a
looking
time.
at it at
This
this
is exactly
angle,
what you
right?
see in the next moment, and
there you
continuously
go.
throughout this
Is that
interview.
right?
What does that
Who am I
translate to?
talking to? Fucking nobody.
That's my father's name, Han. Come down here.
Does she say anything else associated with that? With that?
I can't hear clearly because like I
Water.
was
Water.
on the phone and the TV was on, but that's what I heard.
Is she yelling, or is it normal?
It's a loud. She's not yelling, but it's a loud tone.
Okay.
She then hangs up the phone with her friend once she hears the commotion.
As I'm hanging up the phone with him, I hear footsteps going up the stairs,
Okay.
but they're not.
Let's see
They're
if I can
heavier
make this
footsteps
successful.
than what
Not
is to
like
be expected from my
good,
parents.
but just
Okay.
passing.
Jennifer hears unfamiliar voices, so she opens her door to investigate. She has spoken for 2 minutes up to this point without being interrupted, and once again manages to build up her emotion to correlate with a supposedly terrifying event. Yet as soon as the detective interjects with a question, we once again see this emotion dissipate.
I peered out, and there was a person in what would have been my brother's room.
And where's your brother's room located?
Just a little bit down the, I could see from my doorway to his doorway, just
Okay.
a little bit down the hall.
Okay.
Okay.
It's looking weird. Some of these lines have
The
been taken
first
away.
intruder then robs Jennifer at gunpoint before taking her to the
I'm trying to
ground
sell here, I
floor,
guess.
where she then sees her parents sitting next to each other.
This guy has a massive
Where I was
one of these
standing,
muscles.
my father was sitting
as
on
you
the
can see.
right, and my mother was sitting on the left,
Sitting where?
on a couch, on our couch.
sitting on the couch. Are they looking out towards you?
No, their backs are
What is
towards
this?
me.
What
Okay.
am I drawing?
And you're now on the ground level? Are you on the floor? Or on the
I'm
sitting on the
on the
stairs?
floor. I'm sitting on the floor.
All right, where
This
are your
looks so
hands?
weird.
They had tied my hands,
So let's
as
go.
I said.
Let's go back up to the stairs. Remember we said
Her emotional display in seeing her parents in distress gradually faded after each interjection, but you'll now see it completely cease altogether once she realizes that she made her first mistake. Everything she had said up to this point correlated with her initial statement, but she had just forgot to mention that she was first tied up before being
What's that
taken
about this
downstairs,
guy's
and only
top
brought it
guard
up when
thing?
reminded by the detective.
take the other statement and whatever we've said before.
I feel like this heavy
I
shading.
said it earlier.
She didn't say she was
Isn't
tied up
anything
earlier. She
really
completely forgot
new?
to mention it and seems to be
Like,
trying to convince the detective
makes
otherwise.
it looks
It's a
nicer.
moment of slight
Makes it
panic,
looks nicer.
which
Wow,
becomes
what am
far
I-
more pronounced when you compare
What-
it to
what
her
does it just sound
supposed
like?
grief-stricken recollection 5
Fucking Jar
seconds
Jar
earlier. The
Binks.
detective doesn't
It's not
challenge
somebody I wanna
this,
sound
as
like.
it can be used against her at a much later stage, and the main objective at this point is to collect as much conflicting information as possible.
Okay, then we must let's get back to that area. I think you might have touched on it. We went
Okay,
back
so
to the
these abs look
description.
funny,
So where
but
does you
whatever,
where
it's
do you
okay.
get your hands tied and where does the string come from?
I'm not sure where the string comes from, but he had the string,
Okay.
and after I gave him my money, that's when he tied my hands.
She is then taken downstairs where she sees her mother being interrogated by the second assailant over the whereabouts of the cash. According to her first statement, the second assailant never said a word the entire time.
He had pushed her back onto the couch.
I don't know if that sells it. This, in
Number
fact,
two.
this pectoral muscle is
He
looking
was
very
pushing her
like.
back onto the couch,
Ooh.
and
What's
she,
going on
she
there?
kept saying, "Where's my purse?
Maybe we could
Where's
save
my
it by
purse?"
doing that.
And the guy kept
I
telling
mean,
her
it
to
should
sit
be
down,
going that
and
way,
I
right?
didn't want my mom to get hurt.
How many times does she get up and get pushed back down?
Still looks funny. But whatever.
I'd say she got up twice.
Ew, ew.
Has number two
Oh,
uttered
it's
a
okay.
word at this point in time?
I don't think I can invoke the what would Yusuke do right now because I'm
So we're
uncertain.
just correcting what you said earlier because you
what
said
exactly?
earlier that it was
I
number
just
two
couldn't there.
who was asking where the purse is, and now you've said now it's number one guy who would
I'm
initially.
sorry. It's just
Oh,
It's all the
oof,
purpose
I need to
of-
stop.
the purpose
I'm
here
making
is
it worse.
clarifying what you're saying. So number
I
one
just
is
don't want to.
number one is the one who's doing the talking about the purse. Number three is focused on your dad's wallet. Okay.
Jennifer continues to make contradictions and is forced to correct herself multiple times after she notices the puzzled gaze from the detective. He inquires over the appearance of assailant number 2, who is wearing a hoodie according to the first statement.
Do you get a good look at number two now of what he's wearing?
All I could tell was he had a vest, and his face was like a long oval face.
He had a vest.
No, hoodie.
Okay.
Dark hoodie.
Okay. Did you see them recover anything inside your mom and dad's room?
I did not see anything, no.
Are you sure? Because when we spoke the last time, there was some mention of some other money that went missing.
I believe when they were looking for my father's wallet, they had opened the drawer. And
Okay,
there was
let's
there
try to
was an
draw
envelope
What drawer would that
Tatsumaki
have
type
on my
body. Because
on
this
the,
guy
if you're in
does not draw
at the doorway where I was standing on the left side,
male and
bedside
female
table.
characters the same.
Whose side of the bed is it?
That's my mother's side of the bed.
Okay.
More
So,
than
the
likely
other
a
thing I
total
do-
coincidence, yet she almost appears to be praying that she gave the correct response. Fortunately for her,
Let's
she
go-
was
let's-
correct
let's
on this
go
occasion.
This far.
And approximately how much money?
I'm not sure how much she took out for our trip,
Pixel,
but I can I can
density. Why
only
am I doing that? I don't ever do
estimate
that.
about a few $100s.
Every time
Few
I've ever
hundred,
done
because
that,
at
it
the
doesn't help
time,
me at
the
all.
last time
Or
you told me, you were pretty adamant about
$1,100.
Terrible
$1,100.
habit.
So I'm curious to know how you came up with that number.
I believe is when we were at the border, we stopped at the duty free. My mother was deciding whether to use her U.S. currency or her U.S. currency or her Canadian currency.
So it
Just
was at
gonna
that
try
time
and
you
block
remember
out
hearing $1,100?
Space for this body
And that's
because I
what-
just
is that the
cannot draw
inference
from
you're saying,
complete
is that
blank.
Because you're pretty solid saying that it was
Like,
$1,100 that went missing.
Cannot draw
that
from
was taken.
complete blank area.
And that you saw
I
it
need to lay down. I mean, who doesn't?
when we spoke.
I mean, well, there's that Japanese dude who doesn't, and then there's some other people
And
who
who
don't.
took it?
Some people
Who took possession
need
of the
some,
money?
just the smallest amount of foundation, and then boom,
It's all right.
they're off.
The detective lets the contradiction
this is
slide
gonna be
once more.
very
Jennifer is
flat
then
unless I
brought to
try
the
to change
moment
the
where the
body up
intruders had just left,
bottom
and
half.
she is tied to the upstairs banister.
Let's
This
come
guy
back
always
to now
draws
you're
Tatsumaki
being
with
taken to the banister and
fucking
you
white
don't
waist.
apologize, okay?
Not white waist,
I'm going
uh,
to try and ask you
white hips.
questions to try and clarify points. Okay? If you don't
So
remember,
we're gonna
you
try
don't
to
remember.
do that. Keep this small.
Okay, so there's no
Small top
apologizing.
half
The only
like-
reason you would
like
apologize
this
to me
too.
is if you lied to me. Okay,
No, it's
so
just- I just-
then in this case, then don't apologize to me. It's
Overzealous with
okay.
neck bones
Okay,
there.
I'm going to ask you questions to clarify points. You're now bound to the railing. Can you show me? Can you stand up and turn around and tell me? Just show on the camera how your hands are bound
Okay, so that's
and how
probably
you are against
fine.
the railing. You don't have to sit down. I just need
For
to see how
shoulders.
you work.
Just tell you.
I'm no Mikey Makeup.
The only reason that I'm
but
trying
you're
to
definitely gonna
I
try
need
to
to
see
do
what we
this
can do.
is that I'm also going to ask you is that so take this back to take it out of a traumatizing event, which it is, and put yourself into
So-
a more clinical position because I want to see
Still
how
have
you
this
could
ridge.
physically get your phone out
This
of your
wonderful
waistband.
ridge that
We're obviously going to need to know
helps
that. It's
us
very important. So
break into the
traumatize a
3D
way.
areas.
Now put yourself into just a state of I need to mechanically show how I can get access to my phone. Okay, because that's obviously very relevant. We know you made the phone call, but questions are going to obviously raise is that if my hands are bound and I'm against the railing, how do I talk to a 911 operator? Okay, so clinically, this is now a clinical demonstration. Just stand up, focus in on how you did it.
Now the magic for how this guy draws Tatsumaki all comes into.
I want you to stick that
I
in
mean,
your
I'm not gonna
waistband
talk like a
as an
fucking pro
example.
on how to
So
draw.
take your sweat off because this will be a very smooth, very quick thing. It's a
Tatsumaki,
one-time
or how this
demonstration. I'm
guy
not going
draws
to ask you to
Tatsumaki,
repeat it.
just from
The
what
two
I
critical parts of this
understand from what I've
demonstration
seen.
are where Jennifer states she
There you
was
go, trying to
tied,
sound
and the
like I
movement
know
of her
something.
arms as she takes her phone out of her pocket. The investigator is
magic
hoping the
comes in that
mechanics of the two
fucking
components would be illogical
black
and contradict each
zigzag
other.
I
dress
tied
on.
my upper arm
But that's when
Yes?
he
around the banister,
just
Yes.
but my hands
hyper
are bound
shades
together.
So your
everything
hands
on
bound
this.
together, and this is the arm that's the strings wrapped around against the
character.
banister. Okay.
Let's go
So now, how can you
here.
get to the phone,
Start of the hips. Boom.
and how do you make the phone call?
That's the widest part of the hips, and then we can
Whether
go
it be
ahead
a
and
stroke of luck or that Jennifer had prepared for this moment, this actually
Bring it
made
out to
sense.
the
Had her
knees.
arms gone left or the
Make them
point
meet
of
anywhere,
restraint
honestly.
been below the elbow, none of this
Oh,
would
no.
have been possible.
I was
It's
trying to
perhaps
make
the
it so
single
that
moment where
it's like
Jennifer's statement was somewhat beneficial to her
more
defense.
3D.
We know Jennifer was tied up when
We'll just-
police
we'll
arrived,
just put
but the
some
assumption
Photoshop
was
on
that
it.
she had her
Maybe
phone
we'll
in
do
her
something
hands
with
the
that.
entire time and wouldn't have had to
Lower
retrieve
legs.
it from her waistband.
Something
She can
like
now
this.
argue that this portion of her testimony is genuine.
Supposed to have-
911. And do you talk down like that?
Yes,
I'm losing the
yelling at the
Tatsumaki.
phone like this.
And how can you hear?
I turned the volume on max.
Yes. So
Hmm.
that's exactly the way that you're talking to her.
It's not really
against the
standing
wall.
like, oh, fuck it. Who am I? I'm not a professional.
Sit down.
What the fuck?
Jennifer is then brought back to the moment just before she heard the gunshots.
At this point, I started hearing my parents
These
get
legs
up,
make no sense, but it's okay.
and they're moving, and my mom's yelling, "Where's my daughter? I want my daughter.
I
Where's
feel
my
like this is
daughter?"
already too long for Tatsumaki, but it's
I'm
okay.
yelling, "Mom, I'm
It's
here."
It's all in the proportions,
Here.
boys and
Jennifer,
girls.
take a Kleenex
It's all in the proportions.
and just take a minute.
You'll notice that she doesn't wipe her eyes or
Keep
blow
that
her
there,
nose, just
just as a
buries her
reference
face in the
point.
tissue, which the detective
That was
later
all the bones in
testified
my
remained
wrist.
completely dry.
Okay.
My ankle.
So we're now down in the basement. They're down in the.
Now that
your
we have
parents
this
are down in
rib
the
cage,
basement.
I heard
kind
pop.
of just come fully. That's not a
my
word.
mom. I heard her squeal.
Multiple pops occur thereafter
in there.
before she hears the intruders leave through the front door.
Once the door closed, I heard my father.
Do the rest.
He ran up the
Let's see.
stairs, and all I could hear was moaning.
This is the big, a big
Dad.
seller here. Boom.
Once I heard him starting to
one
move,
part I liked the
that's
most
when
about what I
pulled up
saw
the
in
phone
all
and I was
these
trying to call 911.
drawings he did.
This is
That's when
untrue.
it was
She
this
only realized her
specific
father was
crinkle here.
alive midway through
Really
the
lends
911
to
call.
the
And
change
in that
from
exact
body
moment, you can actually hear
and the
genuine
one right
fear in her
there.
voice compared to her fabricated panic the moment before.
Pretty awesome. He was able to do that. Can you do it? I don't know. Just see the phone. Drawing from
The
a
final
pretty
part
far.
of this statement is collecting information to set up the
distance.
main strategy for
Still
Jennifer's
not, like, getting in
interrogation
there.
that will take place 10 days
Still
later.
kind of
They go through
blocking out
Jennifer's
shit.
past and gather intel to lay the foundation
Try to-
for
I guess
what's
to try
known
to
as
censor
the
myself
how and
there.
why solution, which will be explained in further detail at a later stage.
What I want to do now is I want to go into your past, okay? And start talking about things that have been going on with you.
The detective now morphs into a therapist, and what's fascinating is how Jennifer
detective
doesn't
now
once
morphs into a
question the new line
therapist.
of inquisition. Many argue that it was the first time Jennifer was even
let's see if
asked
there's
about
any
such
glare, which I'm sure
matters,
there's a
giving
bunch of.
reason for her willingness to open up. This may have been the first time in her life she was able to process
Color
her
me a little bit
frustrations
surprised
and
when there's
vent
not
to
too
someone
much.
who appeared to care. The first topic is her parents and the expectations and pressures she was under to succeed, which led to her
Oh, wait a
failing her
minute.
grades
Now I
and then
really
her
wanna see
college
this other
degree
guy.
as to not be a disappointment.
How did you feel about that? How did you feel about having to lie to your parents?
Also
I
surprisingly
felt
not too
guilty, but
terrible.
every time I tried to
Oh, I didn't
bring
really-
it up,
Okay, this is strange.
there was just so
Maybe
much.
there's something to this, although I'm no longer
So much
understanding how this
expectation.
ab formation is working over here. Like, wasn't
Did you have any resentment towards them for this?
wasn't there something going on here?
I chose,
I don't know.
What
I don't
I
want to get
chose.
into it.
but in the end, I chose my family.
Let's get back
She
to
just
this.
referred
What
to the
is-
ultimatum
what
she
am
was
I
given
doing
by
over
her
here?
father. The choice
What
to
have
live
I
at
done?
home and go back to school,
Oh,
or be
that's what that
completely
is.
cut off by her parents
Very
and live with her
confused.
boyfriend. Information gathering on Jennifer's past
Let's
goes
fix
on
this
for
because it's
roughly
now
2
led into
hours and
its
20
flatness.
minutes. The detective then ends the exchange by putting her under some pressure. It's not a direct confrontation, but it's by far the most uncomfortable position she's been in up to this point. The detective subtly switches back to the home invasion and how the
This-
intruders were able to gain access without breaking in.
Like you didn't hear a doorbell, you didn't hear a door knock, you didn't hear a door kicked in, you didn't
I
hear
was, like I said, I was watching
No,
TV on the phone.
but-
I don't know how.
For some reason,
Yeah,
that makes it feel flat.
I know we went over that back and
I'm not trying to make it asymmetrical, but I'm also not trying to make it
So somehow they got into your house by getting through
totally
your mom
lopsided.
down on the lower level, right? Because she's the only one who's down
She
there.
was the one that-
Okay, I'm going to try to have as much fun as this fucking
It's very
Yusuke guy
confusing.
does with the shading,
Generally,
because he does a
random
really good
events
job.
are not.
It
in
it
most
sells
cases,
really
random.
well.
There's a rhyme or reason why they
Not
come
like
to your
literally,
house.
but it sells.
But
the
from what
effect
you've
of
told
he's
me
doing
inside
really
the
well.
house, the only thing that you hear them saying
And
to
I
you
guess
is
it does sell
they're
this
looking for
fucking
money.
manga.
They're not looking for a specific quantity of money.
No.
So you're telling me that you had no involvement in what happened, meaning not saying
Looks
how
like
the
he's wearing
outcome
sweatpants
came,
right
but
now.
you had no involvement in any type of illegal activity that would have drawn you or the
I know.
attention
I
of you
think
to have
everybody's
bad people
thinking
come to your house
All the
looking for
0
large sums
people
of money.
watching.
You're not involved in this any which way.
Those bottom
Because
half legs had to go.
the question obviously stands, Jennifer, is you're upstairs and they're downstairs, right? So it's a natural
Some
concern.
dainty knees.
when why would they leave you alone? Why would they not do the same to you?
Those knees seem very low, and I have to fix that now.
You can't answer that question.
The only thing I can say is he said I cooperated.
The,
But I asked him to take me.
the number
with my
one
mom.
guy, said you cooperated. Okay, who's to say this whole thing isn't a lie? That what you're telling me is a lie? Because if you are lying, it's the most cold-blooded thing that I've ever faced in my life. There is nothing that you've said to me today is a lie. Now, back to another very difficult question. But if I don't ask it, I'm going to be, it's an obvious one. The resentment that you may have had towards your parents for the interference in your relationship and your life and essentially locking you down in your house.
At the end of the day, I love my parents and I chose to be with them. And if I wanted to, I could have just left, but I didn't. I wanted to stay with them and take care of them.
So this wasn't some evil plot that you thought up to...
Oh my God, no.
No interaction, no belief, no, you didn't have anything to do with this thing at all, whatsoever. You don't engage in illegal activity?
No.
Because you know that it'll be very easy, it will be a very easy thing to discredit you on,
Probably
right?
isn't.
We're in the process of trying to add credibility to what you tell us, and that's through the process of asking people and doing whatever. Through that same process, it will be very easy to find the flaws in what you've said, which again then turns the focus back to you. Okay?
I don't.
It's a natural progress. It's a natural thing that investigators do. We eliminate people, or we draw our attention to them. It's a natural thing. It's not brain surgery. Okay?
The detective leaves the room for 20 minutes to allow Jennifer to stew in her own thoughts before they end the statement. He comes back to add one last bit of psychological pressure that he carefully disguises as reassurance. Jennifer will leave terrified, but still believe the police are on her side.
Okay,
Let's just try and fix it.
we're done.
Because I'm just weird on this side now.
How you feeling?
Boy.
Did I
Flipping a
ask you-
camera's gonna be pretty
Sit down
hard.
and take a load off. Tell me how you're feeling and how I scared you. I don't want you walking away from here thinking I'm evil. I want you to walking around from here thinking that this guy is helping investigate my mom's murder and he's going to
think
turn
that's
over
enough
every stone
information for us
possible
to
to make sure
start
that we catch the people who do that. That's what I want you
getting
to do.
in
So
there.
I don't want
Oh,
you
no, I
walking
gotta
away
fix
from
these.
here
That's
thinking
right.
that I scared you or I'm a bad man. Sometimes we have to ask very, very difficult questions, but it's my job. Okay? You're our only link. You're
Very
until your
weak
dad
game.
regains is back and being
Legs.
able to be spoken
My
to.
weak leg game is
Right
showing
now, you're our
harder.
only link to this case.
Her father
real
had
hard.
bullet fragments
Look at that.
lodged in his face that doctors
I'll get
couldn't
back to the
remove,
feet
and a
later.
shattered neck bone. At the time of this interview,
Kind of
the
more
consensus
interested
was
in
that if he did regain
doing
consciousness,
no
he would be
fucking-
useless as a witness due to irreversible
The
brain
whole
damage.
black shading
So
thing.
we may rely on you heavily until we can speak to your father. Okay?
Oops. There we go
So
again.
don't be afraid. If you've told the truth, the last thing you should be afraid of is anything. If you've told the truth
That's
and you've been
probably
truthful through this
left-sided
whole
as hell.
process,
Yep.
then you're helping. You're doing your part, okay? And don't be afraid of me.
I'm just afraid because,
Okay, how about this?
you know,
Boom.
like, I know everything
Same
is just
stroke.
all
How
pointing
could it be wrong?
negatively
There
right
you go.
now, and I don't understand why. I feel that, like, the way you're speaking to me, it's kind of like, I know you said that you had to say those things, but it's here, and I've already said it to the special victims yesterday, but there's, like, ideas in my head.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid to say it out loud. But
Ideas about speculation of what happened, how it happened. Unfortunately, at times some of us have to point the finger, seem like we're pointing the finger, and it really is just to provoke you to see what you're going to do, how you're going to respond. Okay? So, it's only a question, and it's been answered, and if you've been truthful, okay, you have nothing to fear. Absolutely nothing. Okay?
Police kept Jennifer under close observation from this point forward. A surveillance detail was assigned to track her every movement, and she was even monitored at her mother's funeral 3 days later. According to reports, she was emotionless the majority of the time, only showing what appeared to be feigned grief at certain moments. She never shed a single tear, and kept her eyes to the floor or completely shut for the entirety of the service. Jennifer's father had in fact awoken from his induced coma the day prior, and miraculously seemed to remember everything from the night of the incident. He would give an official statement in secret on November 16th, and multiple parts of his story contradicted what Jennifer had told police. The most significant detail was that she was never tied up, but instead walking around freely and talking with the intruders as if they were friends. He actually spoke with Jennifer over the phone, but was informed by investigators to act amnesic and not to confront her, only to ask her if she thought her ex-boyfriend was behind it. She stated that she was almost certain he wasn't. The only issue with Hahn's statement was that he had suffered minor brain damage from the gunshot, which could be used by a defense team to refute his testimony in court, or even get it thrown out altogether. Furthermore, it was essentially his word against Jennifer's, and their turbulent relationship would also work greatly in the defense's favor. York Regional Police knew they needed a confession for the best possible chance at securing a conviction, so they assigned their most experienced investigator to conduct Jennifer's interrogation. She was called back into the Markham Police Station on the 22nd of November at 2:30 p.m., a week and a half after the incident took place.
So just for the record, it is the 22nd of November 2010. We're at the 5 District Station in the town of Markham. My computer right now says 2:39 in the afternoon. Okay. Just for the record, my name is Detective William Gates. You can just call me Bill here today. And what do you like to be called?
Jen.
Jen? Yep. What do you prefer, Jen or Jennifer?
Jen.
Either or? Okay, so Jen, you're aware that the audio tape and everything's on. It's the same as last time. Okay, you've been here on 2 other occasions, I understand, on the 9th of November, and I believe again on the 11th of November. Is that correct? Okay. And do you know why we're here today? Yeah, regarding what? And as a result of that home invasion, your father and Dan was actually shot, and your mother, Dan, was actually killed. Is that correct? Yeah, you'll have to speak up a little bit just so I can hear you.
Sorry, yes.
Okay.
What's unique about this interrogator is how he immediately adopts a no-nonsense approach, yet manages to build rapport and remain sympathetic at the same time. You'll see that he has far less patience compared to the previous investigator, yet seems to create a stronger connection with the suspect. It's a hard thing to explain, but easily observed, as you'll soon find out.
So that's what we're going to discuss here today.
Jennifer this time around has read her rights to silence rather than her rights as a witness. If she knew anything about the law in Canada, she would be wise to the fact that she is now a suspect. Fortunately for the investigator, she remains completely naive to the situation throughout the opening phase of the interrogation, making her far more susceptible to the strategy he is about to employ.
Okay, just hold on a second. Okay, we're having technical difficulties here. Okay, so that's why they interrupted me. What we're going to do is, if you don't mind holding tight there, I'm just going to move my equipment to the other room. Okay, and then I'll come over and we'll move over there, next door, okay?
I'm just not comfortable being alone.
Okay, I'm going to be right here though. Okay?
With respect to interrogations, it's common knowledge that the psychological manipulation begins before a single word is spoken. The physical layout of the room is designed to accelerate the sense of discomfort and isolation, and it's fascinating to observe how each interrogator has their own unique methods of setting the tone. Knowing how this interrogation plays out allows us to realize this detective's procedure. The considerable distance between him and the suspect will keep her relaxed enough to be influenced by Phase 1. But this same distance will intensify the pressure once he eventually closes it during Phase 2. You'll notice this detective is slow with his first strategy, but swift with the second. He takes his time in building trust and establishing rapport. Yet once this initial connection is secured, the transition to aggression will be abrupt and ever increasing from that point forward. Jennifer takes a seat in the room 15 minutes since she was first informed of her rights. It's important to note that she is still free to leave at any time at this point. She is unknowingly a suspect, but not under arrest.
So just for the record, this room is being videotaped and audio taped, just like the other one, okay? And I'm just going to grab my chair from across the way, okay? Okay.
The detective goes through Jennifer's history of teaching piano and her earlier years of high-level figure skating, which was cut short due to injury.
If you didn't get injured, would you still be doing it? Yeah. That's
Bam, hip bones there.
And did you, as
Landmarks,
far as that,
landmarks.
did you
That's
do
what we're going for.
like competition skating, or, and how did you do with that? Yeah, but you did actually enjoy it. More than just going for competition. Okay. All right. Do you have any students right now? Or? And why not? Oh, okay. Yeah, too big. Yeah. Yeah, I took it in grade school too, but I think I went to grade 7. Back in when I was in grade 7, I stopped taking it. I still remember Swans on the Lake. If I play that, that's about it.
The detective then goes through Jennifer's work history as a server before touching on her future plans in education. Jennifer mentions that she plans to go by her parents' wishes and pursue a career in healthcare, at which point the primary strategy is initiated, the how and why solution. The detective gradually begins to shift the blame away from the suspect and onto another set of circumstances that prompted the suspect to commit the crime. He starts developing a theme that will afford her a psychological justification in doing it, and this theme will be further established as the interrogation progresses. It starts off subtle so that she remains oblivious to the agenda.
Now, if you could pick any job yourself, I'm not talking about anybody else, but if you could pick for yourself, what would it be?
When I come home, but in the daytime I'd like to have a simple, maybe like a lab technician job, just work 8 hours a day, and come home with teacher time.
This is an answer the detective was hoping for. Jennifer's preferred career choice is at odds with what her parents wanted, so he now builds on the concept of the overly controlling parent and the unfair limitations it causes the child. He then links this concept with the subject of Jennifer's boyfriend and how she was kept from seeing him.
Now, eventually you were discussing Daniel. What happened with that relationship?
I hid it from my parents first. They didn't agree with me having a boyfriend.
Okay.
And once they found out, they didn't like the fact that he was of mixed race.
Okay.
And they told me to talk to him.
Okay. And how did that make you feel?
Yes. He was the person who just filled an empty void. And felt that a part of me was missing.
When you broke up, you felt the part was missing? Is that what you're saying?
And when they first told me to stop seeing him, stop talking to me, I felt like a part of me was missing. I wanted to feel a bit depression.
How did they find out?
One day when my mother came to pick me up, he dropped me
Okay. Dropped you off.
at Pacific Mall, and my mother was coming to pick me up.
Okay. And somehow they saw each other, I guess?
Oh, my mother saw me hugging him.
Okay. That gave it away. What happened next?
I tried to bring him home. My mother at first was bring him home with me. When I brought him home, they automatically didn't like it for some reason.
Okay.
And that's when they told me to stop.
Okay. So you were told to stop seeing him. So what happened then?
At first, I stopped for a while. But like I said, I felt really empty and I started talking to him.
Jennifer then goes on to explain in further detail how she carried on the relationship in secret and how it became more and more of a struggle hiding it from her parents.
Now, how has Daniel taken it when your parents said that you couldn't see him anymore? How did he take it?
He was hurt.
Okay, this is plenty of room to play with here. Oh, it's still eraser.
And how did you feel?
I'm not gonna draw. I'm not gonna
She
draw. I
then
have
goes
to
on
keep
to
texting.
explain that she was living with Daniel at his parents' house for 2 years, while her own parents thought she was studying at a university.
And his parents were, I guess, more liberal than your parents.
His parents gave us things to give us.
Yeah. Okay. And they recognized that you loved each other.
Jennifer recounts how she bought a fake diploma for $500 to show her parents, and the many other avenues she went down to keep the lie going. She eventually gets to the day she was found out.
How did you end up back home?
They called up my friend, who I said I was staying with, in the middle of the night, and she brought me home. I forgot what day it was, so she's like, isn't she home?
Okay. She messed up.
I don't blame her. But
No.
Jennifer then goes on to explain the ultimatum she was given and the restrictive measures that were put in place so that she wouldn't be able to see her boyfriend.
So how has that felt, being under those guidelines for the last 18 months?
it was okay. Like, it wasn't the best feeling in the world because I'm on I was trapped. But it's what I chose to do.
And so you made a choice between what?
Living out of my own, and
Did you feel you really had a choice or not?
there was no choice because family was
And where do you get that from? Where do you get that belief? The family's number one?
yeah.
The detective then brings up Jennifer's earlier assertion of being depressed and then affiliates it with the restrictive measures she was living under.
What was the worst the depression got? And when did that happen? Where did you cut?
On my list, and once people started noticing, I hid it other places, but never tried to be involved.
So how many cuts do you have on you?
Now, no.
Done? They've healed? And did you want to kill yourself?
Yes.
Jennifer asserts that she tried to kill herself when she was 19 by overdosing on sleeping tablets. She also states that her self-harm was a distractor from the pain and frustrations she was going through.
Did you ever feel that they expected too much of you? How so?
Comparisons to other people.
Okay. So who would they compare you to?
Like classmates, clubmates, cousins.
And so some of them have been successful recently? Okay. And what did they say to you?
Wish you could have been that person.
So that's pretty hard, right? Hard to take for you?
But I've heard on my life.
CBD gummies need to do better.
Did you ever feel like, I know you're smart and they believe you're very smart, but did you ever feel you weren't as smart as what they thought that you were? I get that feeling, that it's pretty tough to live up to their expectations. Okay, like your dad ultimately would like to see you be like a doctor. Those were pretty high standards for anybody. Not everybody can be a doctor. Okay? But they may have acted like you could have done it no problem. Their expectations were so high that few people would be able to reach that expectation. I'm not just talking about you, I'm talking about anybody. And it started at a young age.
The detective further explores the stresses of living with overly strict parents, and Jennifer explains in further details the way she would cope, which for the most part was lying about her grades and living a double life with her boyfriend.
How did it feel having to lie to them all those years?
I wanted to tell them, but
You gotta try his fucking cartoony ass hands. Why?
I'm sure there were days when you actually planned that this is the day I'm going to tell them, and then you just couldn't spit it out.
The opening strategy of the how and why solution has now been executed. A connection has been attained, and the desired narrative established. The next phase of the interrogation is about to commence, which is first set up by a two-step strategy. Step 1 is to induce fatigue. Step 2 is to induce fear.
Now, When's the last time you spoke to your dad?
This morning, he and my brother had meetings at school.
And what have you and your father discussed about this case?
He just asked me if Daniel was behind it.
Okay.
And I told him I don't know 100%, but I don't think he did.
Okay. Why would he ask that?
Because he believes that we still talk and that he would go to anyone to be with me.
What do you think about that?
I know that he's moved on, so I don't think he would go to these lengths to be with me when he's already moved on.
The detective has Jennifer go through the entire incident once more, but unlike the first investigator, offers no reassurance nor consolation. Jennifer starts fake crying again, yet this time is given no tissues to wipe away her non-existent tears.
Now, do you think there's any reason why they tied you up and didn't tie your parents up? Does that seem odd to you? Why does it seem odd?
Because I was away up here separated from him at the time.
And does it make sense that they would leave a witness behind? They were going to kill somebody? Does that make sense?
Yes,
Just thinking about it. Would it make sense for somebody that was going to kill somebody to leave a witness behind that could describe them? Does that make common sense for killers?
it's not.
What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that was a mistake they made then?
I don't know. They kept saying that they're running out of time.
It doesn't take a long time to kill someone.
I know. I don't know.
Jennifer's dramatics intensify as the discussion of the home invasion continues. She's trying to give off the nonverbal cue that she wants to move past the incident. The detective doesn't respond, but continues to go over the different stages of the night in more detail. He jumps from the beginning to the end to the middle, back to the end,
This is
and then
very
back to the beginning again. None of this is for the purpose
Untatsumaki.
of information gathering. He is inducing
My
mental
clothes
fatigue
could
as
love
to
this
diminish Jennifer's
community
critical thinking.
In fact,
This is
I'm
often
giving
done
up on
before
this
a direct
idea.
confrontation, as it can diminish the suspect's ability to
far too
consider the
long.
long-term consequences of a decision. Jennifer will get stressed and tired, not because she is
Doesn't make sense.
traumatized by the event being recited, but because it's exhausting keeping up such an act when it's not genuine. And this performance eventually starts to dwindle and becomes gradually less convincing.
How did the conversation
I didn't have
end
to
with that?
commit to like the backwards
I
hand,
heard
but
my mother calling.
I already done it, so whatever.
Yeah,
Okay, let's just.
Go through this again.
Okay. When you went to bed, was your mom home yet?
She'd just gotten home and I went down. I told her I'd be right back. And I went down, I said hi to her, and I went back up to my room.
Oh,
Were you
jeez.
injured at all?
Thank
during the
the
whole
Lord.
process?
There's an undo button on the computers, huh? Traverse this. Oh, jeez, it's already looking lopsided.
Not really anything?
Step 2 of the confrontation setup will now commence. The detective employs what is known as the futility technique. He will tell Jennifer that he has an abundance of resources at his disposal, and even fabricate much of what he asserts. He's indirectly telling the suspect it is useless to resist due to the overwhelming evidence against her.
Now, the reason why I'm here today, okay, is that I'm an expert, okay, in what we call truth verification. I talk to thousands of people, okay, and I
This does not look like
basically
Tatsumaki.
know when somebody's not being straightforward, okay? I can tell by the language they use, how they answer the question, their body language, how they treat the question, that something's wrong here, okay? This doesn't make sense.
The detective then gives Jennifer an 8-minute narrative on police tactics and forensic technology, some of which is embellished, but for the most part true. He then asserts that police are able to use infrared satellite imagery to see the occupants inside a household. This is entirely false.
And basically, if people are moving around in a house, it's like an x-ray, okay? and basically we're able to tell.
Damn, the cops lied to you in
are those
interrogation.
movements,
That must
are
be
those
feel the
actions,
most dirty.
that number of people consistent with the
I
story
mean,
that
like
we've
you
been
already,
told.
you already
Are the
lost.
people in the position
Why does this feel
that
like
the
I'm
witnesses
drawing
are
an
telling
alien?
us they were in? Or are they different? Okay? And if they're different, why are they
Very,
different? What our question becomes, right?
like, oh man,
And so at the end of the day,
did I screw up right there?
okay,
Did I just screw
there's
this up?
so many resources
Whoa.
available to me
Not
that
so
at the end of the
fast,
day,
Mr.
I'm
Krabs.
going to know a person's telling me
It's
the
looking
truth
less
or
Tatsumaki.
not.
I'm
The detective
losing
is
hope
now
in this
about
one.
to initiate the confrontation, but first brings the entire setup
I
full
think it was
circle by
'cause I-
re-establishing the
Ugh.
notions of reasoning and
Okay.
rationale. The suspect is fatigued and scared, but still
Where's the
needs to
tool
feel
I'm
the
looking
detective
for?
is on her
I think
side.
it's this
Now,
one. Yep.
I can tell you
Boop, boop, boop,
that
boop.
nothing surprises me in this job. Okay? I am well aware that anybody on this earth is capable of making a mistake. Okay?
Head needs
I
to
don't care who
offset
they
the
are.
body
I don't care.
just so.
If they're a priest, I don't care if they're a school
So
teacher.
that the proportions
care
seem like they were.
what the
but,
situation
oh,
is.
Lord.
Given a certain set of circumstances, everyone has the capability, Jennifer, of making a mistake, doing the wrong thing. Okay. The key, though, when I talk to people is when they made a mistake. Okay, that's one thing, right? The key is to not keep making the same mistake. And to get that information out and get it off their chest. Okay? You understand what I'm saying? So, at the end of the day, from this case, and I can tell you I've spent literally a week on this case, going over information after information, accessing all these sources, speaking to every other expert on the case. And at this point, Jennifer, I know that you've not been truthful with the police. Okay? You've not told us everything that you know. Purposely. You've spent a considerable amount of time in the last 7 years telling half-truths. And I can understand why, okay? You've had a tough life. What's happened to me, equates to abuse. And all the stresses that you've had and forced to lie, I can understand why you did it. Okay?
Okay,
You're
maybe
in
this could
situation
still be
here where you're
Tatsumaki.
under another
I
tremendous
think I
amount
just
of
got
stress.
over whatever I was just thinking.
And it doesn't
That
feel
I
good
didn't like
inside,
about
does
this.
it?
I just gotta shrink
Breaks
these a little
down
bit here.
the person that you are.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, you're a good person. I know that. You've got a good heart.
Because it's not terribly
In this
too
case, though,
far
you made
off
mistakes.
here. What?
Okay?
Loose hair.
And you're
Go away.
involved in this. I know that. Okay? There's no question about it. The only question right now is,
Need to make the top
Are you gonna
half
keep
look
making
smaller
mistakes?
still.
are you
Do
going
that
to
with
go on the
smaller
route that you've gone on over the years and try to
shoulder
pretend that things
deltoids.
happen that never happened? Okay? Are you going to not face
The
reality?
top frame still
We
looks a
know
bit
that
too
you're
big.
involved. We've done our
So let's
homework.
take
Okay?
a couple
We
centimeters
have to
off of
resolve
that.
now here today. I need to know from you what really happened. And I know why this has happened. You have spent your whole life trying to live up to expectations that you can't meet, okay? And that stress the hell out of you. You're a 24-year-old woman being treated like a 15-year-old, okay? You've never
Excuse me?
done anything that terrible in your life, but you're
Do I even say excuse
being
me if
treated
I'm
like you
alone
have.
by myself?
You're not being treated like
In this
the
room by
adult that you
myself,
are. Yes,
watching
you
this
made
weird
some
crime
mistakes.
thing?
Big deal.
I don't know.
You're not the first person that has gone out and not told their parents that they're dating a guy, because in your culture they don't accept it. I understand that. I've talked to people in here that have kept that
Is that
secret for their whole
correct?
life.
I feel like the top half
from
is
their
just
parents.
too long.
Okay, so that's not abnormal, but that puts a lot of
But
stress
now
on
the
you.
legs seem like they're
Right?
too long.
That's not easy for you, is it?
Zoom out.
No. Now, what
If
we
this
need to
was a
get
more
down to
zoomed
here
in
today,
picture,
Jen, is what really
perhaps.
happened.
Something about the top half seems
You
not
need to tell
correct.
me
The legs seem too
what
long
went
too.
on.
Could
Because
do
you
something.
know who was in that house that
I
night.
really don't like doing this too much, but
You do, Jen. There's no question about that. Okay?
It saves a lot of time.
Empathetic and understanding, the detective still needs to keep Jennifer's confidence low. He watches for denials and stops them immediately. Letting the suspect deny her guilt will only increase confidence and morale. He needs
So
to be
that works.
stripped away as much as possible, as early as possible.
There's no question about it. Okay?
The focus
Yeah,
is
that
kept from the
feels
magnitude of
like
the
what I'm
crime
going
and
for, actually.
concentrated on the justification
Funny
of
is-
why
my
someone would
gosh.
commit it.
Yes, their intentions might have been good, but they're not realistic. They're not, Dan, were they? Dan?
I hate when I have to do that. It means I was
Your
off from the
expectations
start.
weren't realistic.
Not by too much, but
You couldn't live up
a
to
whole
them.
size. I would have to
You
like
tried to.
try to whittle
Right?
down over time, and
Am
that
I
just saves
right?
so much time.
And finally you had to bite back, right? You had no other choice. You felt like you had no other options. You thought of everything else, including killing yourself. This is Canada. We're in the 21st century here. You cannot take everything out of a person. You can have expectations for your kids, but you can't expect them to do everything the way you want. It doesn't feel good to have secrets, does it?
No.
You have to let me know what happened here. Okay? Okay. But you were involved.
Gotta hide the swirl with
That's the part
tops
we
of
need.
swirls here. Ultimately,
We
it's
need to
coming
hear
from
that from you because we know you were.
a middle swirl.
The detective appears to be getting nowhere, so he now lowers the gauge of admission. The confession to a lesser offense is far easier to attain, but once it is attained, can be used to build on the more damnatory elements of the case. You'll also notice that he uses broad terms that infer guilt, yet don't directly accuse Jennifer
I
of
don't know if
murder.
she's got ears, but I'm just gonna give her
Before
ears.
that night that
Never seen her with ears.
I'm going to make that easy on you. That's a true statement, right? You knew before that night that they were coming, right? Ken? It's not worth it anymore. It's hurting you.
She seems to be on the cusp of giving some form of admission, yet wants reassurance as to what it means for her own sake. She asks this question 9 times throughout this interrogation. It's one of the few things investigators can't actually lie about, as it's been
could be
used
going
countless
overboard here,
times
but
in the
it seems
past
right
to
for
get
some
a
reason.
case thrown out under misdirection. They can avoid the question, yet they can't afford any false promises with respect to sentencing.
I need to know the details. I can't even say. But I can tell you one thing is that we already know, so you can't change that. I know you did. But it got too far ahead of you, right? You didn't think this far ahead, did you? But once they started, once they came in, you couldn't stop it, could you? Could you? Jen? Hmm? I know. Why didn't they stop for you? Hmm?
They were.
But you were part of the planning, right? You have to tell me that someday, and then we're going to work through it together. You know what I'm saying? You didn't want this, you wanted to stop it. You have to prove that to me now. Because at the end of the day, we have to stop this from happening to someone else. Right? Jen, we're going to have to deal with it one step at a time, okay? I'm going to be honest with you. I need to know what you did. And then you and I are going to work through this together. Because the most
Okay.
important thing of this whole thing is,
Because I don't want
We
to
do
fuck
the
up
right
too
thing
much
for
on
the
this,
right?
what is this, like an underdrawing, I
am
guess?
her voice right
It's a
now.
little bit past the sketch,
I'm
but
working
not
for your
quite.
mountain. That's my job.
It's nowhere close to being done, really.
And I have to get to the bottom
guess
of
it's
this
still
for your
sketchy.
mountain.
Yeah, it's still
Appealing to
totally sketchy.
compassion
What am I
isn't
trying to say
necessarily
here?
uncommon when the crime is first-degree murder, yet it can send a mixed message when a justification for the crime was a focus point early on. The detective takes his chance with it, which at first appears to work. Jennifer initially responds in a poignant manner, but you'll soon come to notice that her empathy, alongside her concern, is solely focused on herself.
But we gotta start. Well, I don't know at this point.
That'll do.
Okay, because I don't know what you're gonna tell me other than that you were involved, but I need to hear it. What this all was a last-ditch effort
Let's
to
go
live
for the extreme
your own life.
black color.
Be your own person. Make your own decisions. Look at all your friends. Look at all the people around you. Does anyone else have a curfew for 9 o'clock at 24 years of age? You had no choice here, Jen, I know that. And anybody else in your situation would have done the exact same thing. The only thing different is I would say that they'd have done it a lot earlier. They would have looked for a way out. When did you first start planning? When was the final straw? What was the final straw? So that's what this is all about. Do you want to be a good person here?
Jennifer knows exactly what questions to answer and what ones to ignore. Anytime a question is non-incriminating, she gives a response. Yet when they are incriminating, she remains silent. She is no doubt feeling the pressure, but still very aware of the situation and the potential ramifications of her words.
Okay. And you know when a good person makes a mistake, they have to face that mistake, right? Right? What do you think should happen? I don't know. You're going to prove to people that you know what the right thing to do is. That's what is going to happen. That's what your mom wants right now. She's watching us here. She's wondering, is Jen going to make the right decision here? Is Jen, after all of this, going to come out on top doing the right thing? I'm here for you, Jen. I'm here for your mom. Well, you have to tell, it's one of those situations, you know what, we know that what you did.
Take a move right out of the.
But you have to be able to explain to me what happened, okay? I can't
Should
tell
I
you
just
what's
watched him
exactly
do,
going to happen to you. You just have
which
to be
is
brave
actually
here.
not so hard, actually.
You have to be brave.
"3 hours, 20 minutes, and 26 seconds. The exact amount of time it took for Jennifer to display genuine emotion. The investigator would later testify this was the first moment the suspect was being authentic. He allows her to fixate on whatever thought brought this on, and remains completely silent for just under 2 minutes.
Sorry, teacher. They were supposed to take you. What? Okay. So we're supposed to take the whole family out?
No, just
What went wrong?
The detective now has one foot in the door. It's not an outright confession, but Jennifer has now admitted to planning the home invasion all along. And although she asserts that she was the intended target while her parents were meant to be spared, the information she has now given is enough to place her under arrest. Jennifer is no longer going home after this interview. The detective now presses for more information on the amended storyline. It's essentially step one of day one all over again, but from a more powerful position. He knows she is still lying, and now locks her into as many lies as possible within the new narrative.
What happened?
This X still works.
Why did it
Work like it
change?
should. Ooh, it does.
Okay. What do you know? How come it was supposed to be you?
I can switch to white. Totally take on this whole area.
Okay, you made mistakes, but nothing that couldn't be corrected. Why was it supposed to be you?
Everyone could be free from me.
Why did it happen this way?
I don't know. Everyone could be free from me. I was disappointed in everything.
Okay. So why did it have to happen this way?
Because when I tried suicide, I failed.
What did you want done? How?
It matters.
Okay. So who did you get to do this with?
I don't know who he is. I forget his number.
Okay. And what's his number?
I don't memorize it.
She skirts around the questions surrounding her accomplices and gives multiple fake names. She stated that she got the number of the supposed hitman from an acquaintance named Rick, and that she took everything from there over the phone. It becomes apparent she doesn't want to give up, or even mention her boyfriend, so for the time being the detective allows her to recount her amended narrative in the manner she pleases. She gets to the moment she instructed the hitman over the phone about her planned suicide.
I told him that I wanted to be
There's
killed.
And did he think that was something crazy?
watching that guy's video was very helpful because it helped me figure out where exactly
Because I don't think many people get that request.
these areas,
Do you?
from a person who's studied it much more than I have, and surmise that these areas
I was sure, and I said I was sure.
are kind of shaded
What did you ask him to do?
like this.
Come take
We're
me
gonna see
out
how
on
it
the
comes
beach.
out because we're working slow.
Why did they
Working
do
slow
it
is
when
helpful
you
for
were
things like this
when your parents
because we
were
can
there?
go ahead and affect things that need to be affected the way we want them to be.
Okay. So that meeting you had with Rick, you told him what you wanted?
Producing some hard
I just said
edges,
that I
getting
wanted
rid of some
if
hard
you knew
edges.
anybody who could take care of something that I needed. Just that I wanted to be killed.
He said what?
Here's the number.
Did he have the number with him that day?
Yeah.
Okay. What did he say he would do?
He just like when you take care of it.
Your specific request to him was what?
Make sure you help me.
So he does come into the house, and you're the obvious only young girl there, right? Okay. When he came to your room,
Yeah.
what discussions did you have with the guy that came to your room? The real discussions you had, not what you told us.
Where was the money? And I showed him where the money was.
Okay? But he obviously said, I'm here to do what you asked.
He never said anything.
What did he say?
It's like hands behind your back.
Did he discuss ways with you how he would do it?
No.
Did you request any way for him to do it?
No one else will do that.
Man, it would be so cool to have
Okay.
VCA do it.
Why didn't they do it the way you wanted?
My
But no, I
dumbass.
asked them to take me and my mom when they took them away.
It doesn't seem to make sense.
I know, it doesn't make sense to me. Because I was supposed to be.
Okay. Can you sit up for a minute, Jen? Okay, look at me.
The detective wants an outright confession, and the second direct confrontation is about to commence. Only this time it will be a lot more aggressive, as he doesn't have to worry as much about the suspect locking up or requesting counsel. She is under arrest and going to jail after this interrogation no matter what.
Look at me. Okay. What I do believe is that you went to somebody.
What time is it? Oh, it's
And I
10:30.
do
Oh, it's
believe that night
10:30.
you
Holy
paid
shit.
them the $2,000. But what's not true is it was never for you. Okay, Jen, no. Okay, you went to this person and you asked them to do a job. And the job was for your parents. You asked them to do this job on your parents, Jen. Okay? Let's be truthful. Okay? Nobody's going to come there and get the wrong people. If you wanted to kill yourself, Jen, you're not going to pay somebody $2,000 to do it.
I couldn't do it myself.
Okay.
So
But there's other ways. Okay? And if that was going to happen, they could have taken you outside and done it anywhere. It wouldn't matter. But if you really wanted to die, all they would have had to do is pull up beside you in a car and shoot you. You made a specific request, and the job was for your mom and dad. Okay? Nobody's going to come in there and do the wrong job. Okay? Nobody's going to do that. They came, you paid, and they did what they were supposed to do. And the plan was for your parents. Okay? Jen, you have to be honest with me. This is the only thing that's in contention here. Okay? You made the mistake, okay? Everybody understands. Everybody in this police department feels sorry for you. I can tell you that right now. Okay? Because they've seen what you're going through. It's so obvious. Okay? That all this tension they put out, it basically...
Just working on this crotch here, yep.
Alright? And at one point, it was just too much and you erupted, okay?
Does that sell
and
it?
you made a bad decision.
It does kind of sell it. Is that too low?
Okay?
Fuck it, I
And
don't know.
once you hired this guy, there was no turning back. Now, in the original story, you said that you hid your cell phone.
I got luck in the
Okay?
morning.
If it was
Those
for
legs are
you, you wouldn't have
definitely
hid your
too
cell
long.
phone. That would have never happened.
Oh, that's okay. I'm really just trying to work
So
on
it's in conflict.
I'm not saying it's
Blacktop.
just, I put it there naturally.
Okay.
It's what I naturally do.
Okay, but you said on tape that you hid it there and that they didn't know about it. That's your language, not mine, Jeff. All they wanted was so much success out of you, they were not even looking at you as a person. They were looking for a success story. Instead of just saying, whatever Jen wants is what's good for us. Whatever she's happy with. As long as she's happy in her life, I'm happy with her. If she wants to work at Eastside Mario's for the rest of her life, that's fine. If she wants to be a piano teacher, that's great. If she wants to continue figure skating, that's wonderful. Why would somebody shoot someone they didn't have to shoot?
I don't know. I can't figure that out.
And actually not shoot the person they're supposed to shoot?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Okay, why didn't you tell us this that night?
Because I'm scared.
Scared of what? Telling the truth?
Yes. That I wanted to die. But
Okay,
instead,
listen, if you wanted to die, you would tell us everything because it wouldn't matter. Jen, if you really wanted to die, you would tell us everything because it doesn't really matter. Right?
It does matter because the wrong person got hurt. And my dad is suffering.
I appreciate that's what happened in the end, but that's what was supposed to happen. Okay? The good thing about this is your dad did live. And that went against the plan. If you could make this decision over, you would change it. Okay? You would change it. Right?
Of course. If I knew he was going to get hurt, of course I would.
Jen, you knew who was going to get hurt. That's the whole issue here. Okay? That's the whole issue here. You gave them the plan for your parents, right? That's all I need to hear.
No.
Jen, you did.
No. And this is not going to go anywhere because I wanted them to kill me.
Tell me what happened.
I told you what happened.
All of it.
You did.
Okay. All you have to do is here is tell me right now. Bill, yes, I made a mistake.
Bill, yes, I made a mistake.
This plan was for my parents.
The detective gets no further admission from this point forward, so he leaves Jennifer alone for 3 minutes to play with her hair before he comes back and charges her with first-degree murder.
Okay. I need you to listen close to me, okay, Jen? At this point in the investigation, okay, I'm going to be arresting you for murder. Okay? Also attempted murder and conspiracy to commit murder. You understand that? Just have to tell me if you understand those charges. Just say yes or no. Yes. Okay. So what we're going to do right now is, do you have your own lawyer?
No.
No?
Not eraser.
Okay. Do you have a lawyer you would like to speak to that you know of? Okay. Would you like to speak to duty counsel?
I just want to talk to someone who can help me understand.
Okay, so who would that be?
I don't know.
So do you have a lawyer?
You said that you were on my side.
I am on your side, Jim. What would you like to do?
I don't have any idea.
You want me to call duty counsel for you? Okay. Or is there any other lawyer that you would like? Okay. So at this point, you wish to speak to duty counsel then? Okay. So what I'm going to have to get you to do is actually empty all your pockets on the table here. I'm going to make sure that they're making a call to duty counsel, and we'll line that up, and you can speak to the duty counsel in private, okay? We've made a call to duty counsel, and we're just waiting for them to call back, okay? Need a drink of water or anything? Okay. I do have to go and speak to these officers, but I'll come back and speak to you, okay? But we gotta take care of these lawyers, okay? That's the priority right now, okay?
The next time Jennifer would see this
Just wanna-
detective would
I
be
know
when
I
he
should be going to
testified
bed
at
right
the
now.
trial.
I just
It
wanna
began
have
on
more
the
stuff to
14th of
share.
March 2014, and Jennifer pled not guilty to all charges. Her interrogation tape was one of the more damning pieces of evidence put forward by the prosecution. Yet the most damning were the 116 text messages between her and her boyfriend in the 6 hours leading up to the murder. They thought using burner phones to communicate would cover their tracks, yet forensics were able to uncover the entire discussion just 1 month after the incident. They spoke in detail about how the crime would be carried out, and it was enough to convict them both, as well as each of the intruders who were linked to the crime via DNA evidence and witness testimony. They were all found guilty of first-degree murder and given a life sentence without the possibility of parole for 25 years. Jennifer Pan is now 34 years of age. She is currently serving her sentence at the Grand Valley Institution for Women in Kitchener, Ontario. She will be first eligible for parole in November of 2035.
Man, that is crazy. She's 30-something years old now?
What about your
Fuck.
dad?
He drives a Mercedes and he loves that baby.
Is that right?
Jesus Christ, man. Imagine that. I'm starting to understand the science behind it, and I love it. I love it. I get it now. I understand how shading works. Well, kind of. I kind of always known. I just never tried it like this. To just fully go ham on some shit like this. And really just kind of make things pop with the shading. Ugh. God, thank you, Yusuke, for re-inspiring me to draw shit like Tatsumaki's ass. Rather close, I should say. Seems off for some reason. Let's just looks completely retarded, but let's just I don't know how many of these she's got. I feel like she's got 4. I don't watch enough or read enough. Need to do more of that. This is looking less and less like a rock every day. I need more lines. Not these stupid squiggly lines though. This is looking terrible. More terrible by the minute. That's not even a rock. It looks silly. Yep, I'm just filling in the random doodle lines that I put on there, and it's not helping whatsoever, people. Take it from a guy who can't draw rocks for shit. Don't do this. It looks like a dirty bag. She's floating a dirty bag. Let's try again. God forbid I figure out how to do a fucking rock. Okay, let's just get imaginative. That's a very shittily bottom section of rock. Rocks can have almost any shape, literally. So I don't know why I'm struggling so hard with drawing a rock. I can pick any shape, and yet everything I pick is looking like shit. Upside down Nike sign. None of these look like rock shapes. Oh boy. This looks like a dinosaur head. What am I even doing? It's kind of, okay. What is that? Oh, this is the worst rock I've ever. This is worse than the last rock. I just wanted to go to bed, and now here I am, like. Fucking doing shitty rocks. Oh no, did I unlock how to do a rock? I could maybe have just unlocked how to do a rock. Oh, that's more like rock than paper bag. Let's see, how do they, add another layer, because I'm going to totally fuck this up. Very easy effect, just outline and white. Why not? That's kind of a Tatsumaki. Took me forever with all this corresponding. But, yeah. We'll see what else we can draw next time. Is this even still recording? Yes. And now it won't be. Because I'm going to go get my butt in bed. Good night.